the awareness not, is not necessarily there.
Yeah. Any other questions for Dr. Cousins from commissioners?
Yeah, I have one more. Just the other element I would just note for commissioners and for us is I think it's going to be really important to take this on and keep working with Dr. Cousins and looking at these types of models. And I do, especially with the Wyatt collaborative agreement that we have, where we talk about there's two elements in particular. There's placement, quality of placement, and improved access to mental health and medical services. Those are two areas where the state of Oregon needs to identify how are we currently doing and how can we improve. And in particular, I think that understanding how we are currently measuring access and quality for mental health access and medical treatment versus in our CCO model versus then kind of perhaps understanding what's different and that enhanced periodicity schedule, some of the enhanced like how you follow the mental health assessment, you're doing the tracking to ensure that they're getting into treatment if there is a yes. I think that type of accountability and follow-up that and hearing how that is working and can be done in practice is just crucial for us to keep identifying and figuring out how do we take these types of models and advance it for all kids in our child welfare system. So um, I think it's a matter of figuring out how, right? How do we take that and where what are the right pathways? And just know that we see you and we're kind of thinking about those pathways with the Wyatt settlement, with the CCO procurement. And I think that the commission's advocacy and or advice on whether you want to continue these types of models and or if you are seeking the legislature or the executive agencies to do more here will be important as well.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. It's really helpful. Other questions? All right. Well, I know we're probably over your time, Dr. Cousins. We really appreciate you coming to share this information, and I know we'll be following up with you. You're in a new role. Is everything still good to communicate with you? Ellen's got your current contact information.
Yeah, and it'll be on those slides too. So yeah, I have the same Samaritan email. So yeah. Yeah,
Wonderful.
well, thank you guys for listening to what we're doing, and I would love to see this kind of statewide approach where we're making sure that we're going beyond that IHN or the OHA metric, that first 60 days, and
Yeah.
really looking at ongoing care for kids.
Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. And I'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Well, Rachel, I know you have to hop off at 10. Are there any updates you could provide to us before you have to leave?
Sure, I would be happy to. So commissioners, I do want to just note we are in a bit of a odd timing, as it's November 18th and the governor's recommended budget is going to be issued on December 2nd. So unfortunately, I'm not in a place where coming to you today at today's meeting, I can give you all the details about what we are or are not including in the agency budget request. But I absolutely can commit to when that comes out on December 2nd. You know, Pam, as chair, I'd be happy to hold a separate meeting with you and we can do a one-on-one so that you get the preview and then can share that with the rest of the commissioners in a timely manner. And then as the next kind of meetings, whatever the upcoming schedule is, I'd be happy to present at the appropriate time on what we are doing with the budget when as meetings align. So uh, that's kind of where we are right now. So just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess any recommendations or follow-up around the Wyatt settlement or
Yeah, what I would say for Wyatt Settlement and where we are, I mean, understanding at first, I would say, well, I can't give details as I know, like um, we are very aware that we are in the middle of a settlement agreement and that sets the tone and expectations of how we need to think about our work ahead. That definitely is an environment and is um, part of what is guiding us. Um, I know Lacey Andreessen might be sometimes coming and giving updates here, and April Flint-Gerner. There's a few different things that we've been doing. I mean, first, within the child welfare team within the Department of Human Services, they have been reorganizing internally to ensure that they are moving team members, especially as we think about quality improvement, our data that we need to be thinking about, the oversight. How do we think about our strategic portfolio management? What types of projects do we need to implement to help ensure that we are moving forward with changes to improve how we deliver services? Lacey and April, as the leaders of the child welfare teams, have been working through some of those movements, if you will. So I think they can probably give you an update there at some point. And they have been working on what are the things when we look at the settlement, and they've been holding initial meetings with Kevin Ryan. Looking at those different metric areas, those different accountability areas, and identifying what are the areas that child welfare needs to own on their own, if you will, that are within like scope of like pure child welfare practice if you're already within the system. And then as we think about where are the areas that we need to be working across partners and across systems, we have set up a cabinet structure where we are convening with both Oregon Health Authority and Department of Human Services. We've been looking at certain challenges and tragic situations and looking into some of the deaths that have occurred as of late and identifying where we are having system breakdowns and where we need to be identifying some initial improvements and an action plan for moving forward. So those discussions about, as I mentioned, in particular, when you think about metrics about quality of placements and thinking about um, mental health and medical access are areas where we need to be thinking about and developing our strategies in partnership with our CCOs, with Oregon Health Authority. And so that's why you see that partnership and that kind of coming together in that cross cabinet structure. So that's where we want to we're working at a very high level too. I just want to acknowledge there's different levels of like the coordination needs to be ingrained and occurs throughout all the different layers of our systems. And so part of it is making sure that we're setting the high level direction of where we need to be moving and what our expectations are for how we need to have our agencies move together. But much of the work is going to take a time, and it will take a good deal of change management and process management to organize, because as you know, we have to work throughout all of our districts. It really is a local coordination that needs to occur across different systems. So that's a high level update. Pam, I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, that does. I just imagined that was already happening. I think it's on our list, Ellen, right, to try and follow up with the neutral in the new year.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. And I think I got a message from Lacey a little bit ago, and she's hoping to join us soon and do that update as well.
Great. Well, thanks, Rachel, for the update and for joining us.
Great. Thank you for your work. And I hope you have a great rest of your meeting. And I will definitely follow up with you, Pamela, as the GRB is released, and look forward to continuing to work with all of you on the improvement pathways going into 2025. Just thank you all. I appreciate you coming here and just continuing to give your attention to improving how we improve care for our kids. And just have a great Thanksgiving, happy
Yeah.
holidays, and we'll see you at the beginning of the new year.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
FYI, my this always happens to me when I'm taking notes. I got most of that, but then my speaker connected to like a Bluetooth speaker in my team meeting. So part of it I missed, but I think it was only like it felt like forever, but I think it was only like a minute. So I think I got most of it.
I got you.
Okay.
Thanks, Alicia. Oh, that's too
FYI.
funny.
I know that's why you saw someone come in because he was fixing it.
So
I
random.
think between the two of us, we'll be able to fix those things up. Yeah.
Well, any follow-up discussion? I thought maybe we could take a quick 5-minute break before Catherine jumps on.
Catherine's already here.
Or I mean before takes over.
Oh, before she.
Mostly because I need to use the restroom if I'm being honest.
Who can take notes while I'm in my meeting?
Me.
Might as well figure that out. Ellen?
Well,
Okay.
unless we have a
Thanks,
member.
Ellen.
It'd be better if a member was taking notes as well as me, or anybody can back me up.
I am not on my normal computer. I would volunteer. I don't actually have Microsoft Word or Office on this computer.
Okay,
This,
I'll
Word.
just go ahead. I just do it by hand anyway, and then I'll put it.
this is just my one with video, so I have to pull out this one.
Right.
Oh, is it like a Chromebook?
No, it's a MacBook, but it's been like 10 years old and my stuff it's expired and I use a desktop for work and then I use a work laptop that doesn't have a camera. So I just haven't paid the $180 to put it back on this one, but
Gotcha.
Well, I'll go ahead and we'll get this together, Alicia, and then when you get back on at 11 later, we'll figure out how to balance it
You
out.
want me to send you what I have, or do you want to do?
Oh, we'll wait till later. Let's
Okay,
just till
sounds-
later. I've been trying to get notes as well.
Are you out for the rest of the meeting, Alicia?
No, I'm gonna come back at 11. There's just
Oh,
something
wonderful.
urgent that came up this morning. I can't.
Gotcha.
These are really hard, so.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yes, we need to talk about that, right? Moving the meetings to like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Or...
Because it's the Monday morning seems to be really difficult for folks, and
And we don't even have quorum right now
no, we
either.
don't, and we're
So-
actually we can't even approve the minutes or acknowledge them. And I don't. I've got only 2 people I don't know where they're 3 people actually I don't know where they're at who have not responded. So
Malik is out. I know that. I got
I
a
saw that.
automatic
Autoresponder. Mhm.
but I didn't get it. He didn't tell me that he was going to be gone. Haven't heard from Deanne and haven't heard from Judge Jaco. We do have some concerns, but we still haven't heard from Judge Jaco. And unfortunately, through Workday, we don't have any means to contact her except through her office. And apparently she's not there. But we'll talk more about that later because we do have several new members coming on in 2025. We're just going to have to really balance this out. But we have like 6 people wanting to get on, so we've got
It's pretty exciting.
really good. But we can go over that and make sure with Catherine. Are you okay on time if we do take our break?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, just a quick like 5-minute till 10, if that would work.
Is that okay?
All right. See you back on in 5.
Hi, Stacy. We're in a break. We'll be back on.
For one more minute anyway. Hi, Catherine. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us again.
Nice to see you too on this rainy, stormy day.
Definitely. Yeah, over the weekend it was so windy at night. I was convinced like our cover over our deck was ripping off. It was so loud.
Yeah, I woke up a couple of times. Was that rain? When?
Yeah.
It was
So
crazy. Yeah,
Mhm.
it really was. And it's been so cold here. My video is not turning back on. Oh,
yeah, you would probably get snow before any of us, huh, Ellen?
yeah, I do. We get snow pretty quick. Yeah. It felt like it was going to snow. But today, I mean, this morning, it's the wind and the rain has really been coming down. We have a little break in it right now, but crazy. Yeah, and Dr. Cousins said that she had snow up there in
Hey,
Sisters.
banging on the door, so I thought he'd come say hi. Say hi, everybody.
Hi.
Sisters. This is my son Aiden. Say hi. And then you have to
Hi.
Aiden. Cute.
you hear him banging on the door.
Hi, Kim. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I did not get this on my calendar. And so thankfully Donna reached out to me about the link.
Oh, well, good. Well, and you should have gotten the invitation last week.
I don't know why it didn't end up on my calendar. I apologize
Yeah.
for being late.
Well, and I don't know why the old link didn't work because it's the same as the link that was sent in the invitation. But
Right.
for whatever reason, we're technology, I mean, don't know why, but there we have it. It's the very same, but it went out again. Anyway, okay, great. So do we have everybody back? Are you ready to go?
I think so. The three of us anyway. All right, Catherine, it's all yours.
Okay, so Ellen, remind me, they got the list from April with all of the notes in it where we wrote some thoughts about the recommendations. Correct. Okay. So I can give a couple of updates. Friday morning, and I took Friday afternoon off. We got the revised federal guidance for foster care and education from U.S. Department of Ed that we've been waiting on, and we have also given some input into. And it is 70 some odd pages, and I have not had a time to read it. I kind of looked at some really quick highlights of the document, but I need to chunk out some time and really go through it in detail. So that might also impact some of the work that ODHS and ODE need to do to make our guidance more refined, and hopefully will give some clarity to some of our processes. So that's very exciting, and I'm happy to send that out if this group is interested in that. It's a public document. So I don't yet have a timeline on when we will be updating and going through Oregon's guidance to make sure that it matches up with that. And it may also require some statutory changes or guidance policy changes on our part. I just don't quite know yet. So that's exciting. I think one of the things that would be helpful for me from this group based on the different recommendations that we work through. Some of the recommendations are really big, and some of them cost money. Some of them may not cost money, may just be guidance changes. I also have had a lot of outreach from other groups in the state who are really interested in reforming some of the foster care and education work, which is really exciting. But one of the things I think would be helpful is if we had a recommendation, maybe from this work group, for a work group to address these issues with our partners so that we could go through them really systematically and figure out what things cost money. Maybe we could price some of those things to look at future POPs. Maybe we could see what things maybe are just statutory clarifications that we could put forward in a legislation session in the future, what things are guidance changes that we could internally work on. Those groups that are also working on some recommendations for the agency are, there's a metro area CRB CAPTA panel who's given us a long list of recommendations. Some of them are similar to what this work group has worked on, and some of them are different. And then there's a couple of CASA groups in the middle of the state, so Lane, Corvallis, and on the coast, that have also been interested in doing some work. And what my thinking was is if we had a recommendation of a work group, we could maybe invite some of those other groups to join, and maybe some people from this group would be interested, and then maybe I could get some help from our project management team where we could do something really thoughtfully on schedule and really kind of stick to the things that we've been trying to address and include ODE in that work. And so that's just kind of one of the things that I was thinking about. For instance, we talked about the expanding the definition of foster care. Like I said, I'm super passionate about that, but it's also super complicated. And maybe we think about doing things in stages. We don't have to do everything all at one point, but even if we just had a document that we could all be working from and advocating for, that we could do in various stages, that might help the work progress so that it's not all or nothing. One of the things I worry about too is when there's big things, big changes that need to happen, groups that are interested in getting change kind of pick the low-hanging fruit, and that doesn't always really create systematic change that needs to happen for us to really create the outcomes that we're looking for. And so that's kind of my biggest recommendation for this group. I think Ellen also gave me some updates around there was the recommendation around local education agencies notifying attorneys when there's discipline issues. Ellen clarified that it's really about ODHS caseworkers reaching out to attorneys. That is something that I could change in my ODHS education guidance that goes out annually. I try to get it out every August. And we use that kind of as our training tool, our document guidance. That would be a very easy thing for me to change and add to our guidance. So some of these are just, you know, pretty easy, and some are more complicated, but I would love to have a group that really is working on what are our priorities, what are things we would love to do in the future, what are things we can do now, what are the prices of various things so we can be thoughtful and intentional. If we are looking at POPs, I think we also, you know, may have very different funding changes in the future, and we don't know what that looks like yet. So just kind of having a bunch of different things to choose from might be really useful to this work. So I kind of wanted to get thoughts on that.
Well, maybe Casey wants to chime in because some of those, the communication issues with attorneys, was something we had discussed. And so he may want to, maybe he could provide a little bit more detail into exactly what could benefit, for attorneys representing kids. Do you mind doing that, Case?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Catherine. You know, I know when we put the recommendations, we did talk a lot about, I think it was March, about trying to put priorities on them. And it was difficult for this commission to say this one is more important than the other one. But I think also the education stuff we kind of added to the original package we were looking at. And of course, some of that we thought were simple policy fixes, and some of them were a little larger structural. But I think a lot of it is what I've been trying to do is say, how can I utilize this to help on kind of a micro level, as well? So, you know, we're proposing like kind of macro changes, but I'm able to take that stuff, for instance, the school mobility report that we received in the summer. And on a case by case basis, I'm now able to go into court and have some teeth when I argue the best interest analysis for the kid to stay in the school of origin. Obviously, there's been some questions on that stuff that's come up that we want ODE to kind of flush out more. Because when I share that report, the first thing people say is, okay, what's the next question? Is it better for them to commute for 3 hours on a bus or to change school of origin? And how does a change of school of origin affect a teenager compared to somebody in elementary school? So there's certainly some more stuff that we'd like to do on that, but I think putting together a work group is fine. For me personally, it's difficult because I look at this from a policy perspective. It's hard for me to kind of sit down and say this is exactly what needs to happen and how much it would cost. So I think we'd need some further expertise on it. But I would love it if the stuff that we can do, like you said, with a quick policy change, we're able to do. Because then we're getting things moving. And if we have to put together a work group that kind of envisions, you know, a 2030 plan of things that we want to accomplish, I think that's acceptable too. It's just, it really is beneficial every time we get one of these reports, every time we make one of these policy changes, to go in and talk to the judges about it, to talk to the other attorneys about it. And even if we're already not seeing changes on a statewide level, I feel like we're seeing these changes in the courtroom happen already. So it's beneficial for me to keep working on it and keep getting the data, even if the macro is a little slower crawl than what we'd like to see.
Yeah, I think that is a point well taken. Does this group have my education guidance that went out?
I don't believe
so, Catherine.
Okay.
But if
So-
you can, it would be great. I think we talked about it, but we just didn't get it out there. So,
Okay, I can add that to the chat, and that might also help at the micro level as well. We have also talked with OJD and their person who connects with the courts. And I'm wondering too if with the guidance from US Department of Ed changing, it might be a good opportunity for us to get some more updated training and conversations with our judges. Because I think that is something where there was a lot of training when the Every Student Succeeds Act came out in 2016. And, you know, now we're 8 years later, and we've sort of realized where the sticking points are. And so I think including our juvenile court judges in maybe figuring out a way that we can do some training as well might be really useful. And that's where I think if we kind of had a work group to look at our priorities and moving forward as a state, how we can get some of them done. And then there's these other little side pieces that I think we could implement fairly quickly. I don't think needs a lot of conversation, like adding, you know, make sure that you're talking to attorneys around discipline, updating them on education information as it comes across. Those are very easy fixes. So
And Catherine, quick follow up on that. I hate to be all, doomsday focused here, but there's been a lot of talk about the Department of Education being disbanded under our new presidency coming in. If that happens, are we caught flat-footed in Oregon, or are we creating any sort of plan to address that?
Yeah, so I really do not know. I know that what I can say that I do know is last week I'm also a participant on the State Advisory Council for Special Education. So that's not foster care specific, but it's special ed specific. A lot of questions came up about that, and Department of Ed is kind of in a holding pattern until they really know what's going to happen. But what they did say is there are a lot of pieces that are already codified in state statute. And so I think we're probably going to know more as, we all know more in the coming days, but I know there's a lot of anxiety from everybody about that. So, I don't have the answers, but I do know just from my work, even the work around the Every Student Succeeds Act, School of Origin, that's all in state statute. So I feel strongly that a lot of those pieces will continue. I think a lot of the questions are around federal funding and how does that impact the state? And that's way beyond my head, but I imagine folks at ODE are having those conversations.
Thanks, Catherine. That's really helpful. When you talk about a work group, one of our recommendations was that we create a, where is it at? State level educational outcomes plan for foster youth. Would this be that group?
I think so. And I think we could add those other pieces to it. We could add the pieces around expanding definitions. We could add the pieces around local points of contacts and come up with some ideas about how maybe we can do that in various ways. And I would love to be able to include some folks from the CAPTA panel and the CASA group and OJD and some of our, Department of Ed partners so that we can kind of have a thoughtful plan moving forward would be my recommendation.
Do you have thoughts on a timeline for that?
I would say if it were up to me, I think legislative session is going to be incredibly busy. At least it's busy for me, and I'm a realist, and I don't like to put timelines that are unrealistic. So I would say after legislative session.
Like summer of 2025?
Yeah, we could start it then. If I could get some support from our project management team, that would help keep us on track and have a list of goals and, how often we would meet, that kind of thing. That's the way I would love to do it. And that way it would keep us on track and give us some options.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing to do. We had originally wanted the governor's office to kind of drive that and bring together the ODE and child welfare. But it feels like it's not top priority for them on top of the settlement agreement and everything else going on. So I feel like this is a good option to move things forward, even if it's not driven there. But would this include ODE as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So
I don't do anything without including ODE, and Marley McGill is my partner over there. She is also a big advocate. She would have been here today, but she got sent to a conference in place of her manager at the last minute, and that's why she's not here. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that would be, and that gives us time too to figure out which commissioners could dedicate some time to jumping on board with that. And
yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't look like I can add the document here. If I send you
Send
my
it to me.
ed guidance and the updated Department of Ed guidance, Ellen, can you send it out to this
I
group?
absolutely will. I'll get it emailed out to everybody. You can just email it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. For instance, one of the things that I noted on the guidance is that they in our definition of foster care, the feds initially in the Every Student Succeeds Act said students placed away from their parents in foster care. And that's a real sticking point because we're working reunification plans. It doesn't include kids in trial reunification. We have said in our guidance, and we have added to our School of Origin Transportation Agreement with ODE that yes, we will include kids in trial reunification because we want to make thoughtful transitions. And so it's not in statute, but it's in our recommended guidance and we will pay for it. But schools could say, no, we don't really want to do that. And the Department of Ed guidance came out, and what I read really quickly was, yes, we should be including those trial reunification students. So that is really exciting to me. It's not all the kids that I want to include. I would like that to be much broader, but at least we're getting some recommendations from the feds to include those kids. So, you know, we're already doing it in the way that we can do it without a statutory change, but maybe we can add that to statute without having that be a increase in fiscal because we've already been adding them to that group through our contract. So I think that's where that guidance is going to really come into play and help us out in some of the areas, not all of the areas, but it's always helpful for us to say, well, the feds think we should be including these kids, so school districts, you need to do that as well.
When you talk about your guidance going out, is that to the branches,
Yeah.
staff? Okay.
Yeah, it goes out to staff and we send it to our resource parents who are on the listserv. Not everybody's on the listserv. So we try to get it out to caseworkers. And then ODE has a foster care web page, and I believe that they post it there as well. So.
All right. Any questions for Catherine? All right. Well, I look forward to a work group in 2025 in the summer to start moving some of this forward. And let me know, or us know, if there's anything else we can do to support that, or if we need to make, pull out that recommendation and advocate it for specifically with anyone, or
Okay. And
let
I'll
me
be
know.
sending these out. I'll send them out with Carissa's slides as well, a little bit later on. So appreciate that, Catherine.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Well, everybody have a good Monday, and
You
I will
too.
see you soon.
Thank you.
Definitely. Now I gotta find the agenda.
So we're going to probably have to just rework a little bit because I'm not sure when Lacey's joining us. But
Here we go.
and also because our timing is a little bit different, but maybe we do want to jump to our new membership updates, and maybe we can go there and come back, or whatever you thought.
Remind me what's the ELT?
That's would be Lacey or April.
Oh, executive leadership team. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry about
got
that. We should have spelled it out there, but we didn't know, and I had not gotten any word back from Jessica or Desiree in the last couple weeks, so we're just trying to follow up and make sure.
Yeah.
Everybody's super busy right now. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
So we can chat about membership to our 3 members that are here.
Well, we do want to do an introduction to our newest member
No.
who came on in November. And that's Alex Island. So we're really excited to have you. And, you know, I think this is, sorry, we don't have more people here with us today, but hopefully they'll listen to the recording and get to hear a little bit about you, and you'll get to meet people as we go along too.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear more about you and this team here with Child Welfare, you know, Kim and Stacy and Donna. They're our frequent attendees, so it's important that they know who you are too.
All right. Hi, I'm Alex Island. I use she, her pronouns. I currently work for the department or the Oregon Health Authority for the Public Health Division. I worked for child welfare as a permanency caseworker for about 2 years. That's where most of my drive to do this work comes from. I also grew up in the family court system and was raised in the guardianship by my grandparents. I just saw all the ways that families had a hard time navigating the system and all of the barriers that were put up. And then even when positive change was implemented or policies came through, the way that management often prevented caseworkers from actually carrying out the good work that was being done. So yeah, just here to offer what experience I have as a former caseworker, particularly. That's really nice to meet everyone. Sorry, I'm nervous and didn't have anything prepared, so.
You're good. Well, I got to watch you in your confirmation hearing, little spy over here. So just a very short and succinct, powerful words that you had around things that you saw in the system that you'd want to change. So I know I'm really happy to have you in your background. And I just get really excited when commissioners come with their kind of laundry list of like, here are the things, you know, that they've seen that they think could be better, and here's how. So I know that we're all going to benefit from your experience and your passion around some of your recommendations. So
Thank you. I did. I came with a laundry list.
I know. Yeah, we're excited for your list. Because, you know, we all come to the system from such different angles and have different things that we've seen and different solutions. And I think that's what makes these kind of groups really powerful when we can all join those together. So, and you're missing a lot of the commissioners here today. I'm very sad for that, but you'll meet them and see what I mean by just all the different layers and angles. So, yeah. I don't know, anything, Casey, as the only other commissioner on that you want to share with Alex coming on as a new member?
No, I'm the same way. I appreciate people bringing in their laundry list. I think I did the same thing with the focus on, you know, wanting to put the focus on kids and children and the educational outcomes. And so we all have our little, you know, focuses. And I think that that's awesome to bring that to this larger group that helps shape what we're working on for the next couple of years. And so I've been really happy to see the transition since I've been on the board with the focus. And it's awesome to get updates every day. And like I say, I can take that stuff back and do real world work with it. So, you know, it's cool to see the evolution, and I'm really excited that you're on the commission.
And then you met Alicia. She just popped off and she'll be popping back on, but who's with Morrison family. So I know she's very excited about having you as well. And then the executive appointments when you came on, I think they really loved your background too. So everybody's very pleased.
Wow.
Yes. Very. Anything else on membership, Ellen, that we need to?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I do. I have notes here. Hold on.
Yeah, and
I
there
notes
are
sometime,
some
but-
on the agenda. Just a reminder to those of you that are here to make sure you do your end of the year training in Workday. Really have to do that. It'll keep reminding you, but just to go on, if you have any troubles getting on Workday, as we've worked with that, Casey, just please let me know. And Alex, I think you already did your training. And then we're working on trips, which seems to be in some weird alternate universe, very more difficult than it should be, but we are still working on that. Donna and I are going to get that hammered out at some point very soon. We have some I think we have a contact now, which is good. And then as far as members renewing in February, that would be Casey and Alicia. And I think Casey has decided now he's just going to stay on with us through February, but maybe not. Maybe you want to say a word or two about that, Casey.
Sure. Yeah, no, I just I think it's a good time to transition and have a new juvenile attorney on here, mainly because the commission work's really important to me. But as you all know, I started my own firm 3 months ago, and ooh, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I'm struggling to like even find time to do Workday. And you know, my frustrations with Workday aside, I think I've spent hours trying to even get into the system. Yeah, they don't even let you create a ticket to reset your password without logging in, which you can't do without resetting your password. So it's just a very circular, complicated thing that drives my frustrations. But I'm able to make these commission meetings, and that's nice. But I haven't been able to do much outside of the commission meetings, and that's been tough on me because I like to be prepared. So I think that since I came here to Lane County, I've talked to a lot of people. It sounds like there's already a couple of other attorneys that may have already applied for this position, and they also have lived experience. And, so I'll still jump onto the meetings because I enjoy doing the meetings. I just feel like somebody could put in a lot more time in terms of preparation at this point, and maybe that changes down the road as I figure out how to run my business more. But there's so much new admin stuff that I'm learning that's just, taking a lot of time, and then hiring staff and training staff. And so I'm a lot more conflicted than I was a few years ago.
Yeah, we really appreciate that, and appreciate you staying on. I know we've had several people who've had various things come up, like with Jamie with her new position. And then we'll let Alicia speak to what she's doing when she gets back on. But we do, just to kind of let everybody know, we have Pamela has now interviewed three people. Who I think will who bring a lot to the commission. We have a couple more people we need to talk with still. And I haven't seen the application for any attorneys yet, but please, and don't hesitate to have them reach out to me directly if they're having any trouble with the application, and I'll help guide them through that.
So Ellen, I will add that if you don't end up having an attorney apply, let me know. The reason I made this decision is she had told me she applied, and I felt like she would be a really great fit for it.
Okay.
But I don't want that position to be vacant. So
thanks.
Yeah, so if I have to jump through the hoops and get back onto the list, I will do that, because having somebody is better than nobody.
And if you are willing to just go ahead and fill out I think you could just renew your Workday, just renew your application would be easier. And then if you want to go off, if the other person does apply and comes on, that would be fine too.
Yeah, I just wish that they would reset my password, because having to get all the forms directly from you instead of being able to get into Workday is super frustrating.
Yeah, that I don't, and if you, and we can talk about this later and off there, but if you want to send me a little request, what I'll do is I'll go through Sherry at DAS and see if we can, if somehow between the three of us, we can get that done, since it's not working for you.
Yeah, I had months, Casey, where I couldn't get on. I went through all these people, and they finally got me to someone at DAS.
Yeah.
And here's your new login, here's your new temporary password, use this, save that right into my phone. And
yeah. And we'll just go through her, because she's been really extremely helpful in so many ways. So
part of it is I've changed my email a bunch, because I used my personal, which I don't use anymore because it's just a spam, and then I had my work email, and then I created my own firm. So I've changed emails, which I'm sure has confused a lot of people too.
Yeah, what I've noticed too is anyone who was around before Workday and we were set up in a totally different system, it has been just a nightmare to transition in as an outsider, because they were just the system completely confused.
Well, just send me a quick little email, Casey, and that you need help, and I'll see if we can loop Sherry into that. that'll be good. But anyway, it looks like we'll keep our eye out, but we should be able to have a full slate of commissioners in February. We have a January meeting, and we're obviously going to be talking about changing dates and some things like that, since Monday is not working for people. Yeah, and we can talk a little bit more about that later, but I think we have some good possibilities, but we really do want to keep the momentum going with people like yourself, Casey, like Alicia, and certainly Pamela, the strength and the focus of the commission moving forward. So thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely being able to just come and attend and share your background, Casey, is so helpful, even if you feel like you're not able to do all that, any additional work, which honestly, I don't know that any of us are in a place right now where we're doing a lot of additional. I'm doing interviewing of candidates and that's about it because I can't handle another thing. But I would say, Ellen, for the new candidates coming, do we need to bring those to the full commission as just like here's who we're submitting to the governor's
I think
office,
we,
like little bios or
can do
something?
that. We can do that
That'd be great.
as we get them squared away when I send them to ELT. I mean, not
Okay.
ELT, but to the executive appointments team at the governor's office.
That would just be great.
And sometimes the timing hasn't been the right where we've done it more after the fact. But I think if we can get the timing together, that sounds like the right thing to do. Maybe for January. So at least everybody knows who has gone, who's going into the February. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are there any positions that we're struggling? I know that the legislature outlined the type of positions we want on here. Are there certain positions that we're struggling to fill that we should be on recruitment lookout for?
The tribal position is the one we have had the most difficulty with.
Mhm.
I believe one of the new candidates that Pamela interviewed, Rory, has a tribal background, but also it's out of state. And
That's right.
Judge
It's not an
Pico,
Oregon recognized tribe.
was outside of Oregon recognized tribe too.
Did we have a spot for the AGs on there? I think I've asked that before, but for the prosecutors.
Yeah, I
I
think
think they're listed as a potential member, but it's in I'd have to go back and see those.
it's in the bar association area. But what we do, and we do have a judge position, and we're not real sure. And no one seems to be able. We haven't heard from Judge Jaco. We don't have a personal email that was in Workday. No personal information. So if anybody has that, please let me know. We'll reach out to her to make sure that we can find out what her plans are, because we just haven't heard.
I think that I imagine it's a lot more difficult for her to take time off now that she's on the appellate than it was on the bench when she took this position. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely
So,
something going on.
And we do understand that everybody has busy lives and lots of things that are going on for them personally, and I think all commissioners are doing, everybody just does as much as they can, and we try to make sure we can coordinate everything and make it and I'll try to make it as easy as possible for everybody to have what they need. But yes, so that's really basically it. But if you haven't done your Workday trainings, please do them. And if you're having trouble with Workday, we'll try to get that solved here. And then we don't know. I think Malik is out of town, but I didn't get anything from him or Dean today. So
No, very weird for Dean to not show and not respond either. But I know he also pulled out of his election race.
he did. He had some personal things. He said that.
Yeah.
Really not at that.
I think, the universe is nuts and lots of things going on for a lot of people right now, as always. On the thing for the timing, Ellen, do we want to talk about that now and like come into the new year with a new schedule?
We
Feels like we-
could. Let's see, where are we on time? It's 10:38, so we're really way ahead of schedule,
Mhm.
which is good.
I know we don't have everyone here to talk through what a day might work best.
Should
And
we
I don't
wait
know if,
till we have Alicia back on, maybe, for that at 11? But, we can't approve the minutes,
No.
out of quorum. We could talk about the biennial report. I mean, because we do have the ongoing business area too, but we did want to hear from Lacey or April prior to that.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, so wait till Alicia comes on to talk about schedule. And yeah, let's jump into the biennial report.
Great.
That's okay with everybody. We'll just jump around our agenda. And for if you're new, Alex, we are required in the statute to produce a report every couple of years and then have like some executive summary of it that gets sent to the legislature reporting on what we've been up to over every 2-year period. So this is our report, 2022 to 2024.
Yeah, we put a report out last year, but things had gotten messed up. I mean, there was an administration change with the governor's office, and then of course there was COVID. And so with that, there was a 2021 report, but not a 2020 report. It's supposed to be in even years. There was not a 2022 report, but a 2023 report. So essentially what the 2024 report does is pull us back into compliance. So that we had a 2023 and a 2024. And also because there's now there's clearer guidance that has been sent out to all people in the board administrative partnerships on how this administration wants to receive the reports. So we now know that we can submit a full report to a certain address where it goes, and then we will send the summary that Pamela was discussing to that will go out to everyone. Now, just to update you, I think we're working on, since Stacy and Donna can comment on this, we're not going to send it from my personal email, just because because my personal email is as an ODHS employee, and we need to have that come from a different email. So we're getting a new email that it will be sent from. Do you want to say something on that, Donna or Stacy?
Yeah, what's that about?
I can. Yeah, I just got the request back on Friday. It is set up. So I just need to go through and send you, Ellen, the user guide of how to access the shared mailbox. So it does have the ODHS .oregon.gov at the end of it, but it's titled Governor's Foster Care Advisory Commission Coordinator. So that's the name of the email. And so it won't say from Ellen Bell, it'll say from the commission coordinator. That way it's just a little bit easier to see like, oh, you're getting something from the commission coordinator and not from Ellen Bell as, her other things that she does within child welfare. So
right. And then also it's like people will be able to see that it is coming from the commission and not an ODHS employee, which is important.
Oh, that makes sense for the legislature to get their individual. Is that what the other commissions do? Do they all have kind of a generic?
That from what I can tell, I know Governor's Senior Services does it that way, and I haven't chatted with the rehabilitation, and because some of the other ones, they kind of have a more formalized setup too, if they're like the physical therapy and various things like that have a completely different setup. But I think most closest to us in ODHS is probably Governor's Senior Services, and they do have a separate email. And so what we'll do is we'll reach out to SharePoint. We'll also change that on the web page. So it's not my personal email, but that it goes out through, that anybody who's trying to contact the commission through the web page will go through the email of the coordinator email. And I think that'll be great, because sometimes I get upset emails just periodically, and then I try to filter them and forward them. But a lot of times they don't even make any sense. And so it'll be better if there's You know, that doesn't isn't personally
What?
coming to me, because sometimes I actually try to figure out like, oh, where should this go and who might best answer this question, but yeah,
Okay,
I
that
send a
makes sense.
lot to the governor's advocacy office. So,
Yeah, I would imagine that makes sense.
so anyway, that is yes, that's what's going on. Do you want to look at the contents of the biennial report and the full biennial report then?
I looked at
Yeah.
it. I think it looks really good, Ellen. I mean, for the most part, it seems like our report pasted with kind of a little bit of an update from 2023, 2024, and then a little bit of a foresight into 2025. Wanted to make sure that on the 2025, it was the stuff we just talked about, which is kind of focusing on the implementation of the recommendations that's on there. So I think it's good. It covers everything that we've been talking about and been working on.
Let's see, I'm just looking at it too. So I think the only, oh, there we go, health services and dental. Okay, yeah. I think that looks pretty good. I'd be really curious to see what other commissions and boards do for theirs. I know I went and looked through some when we were on that call, Ellen, but they weren't really comparable. It was like a 100-page report from the Veterans Affairs Committee or whatever that was. Like that's not apples to apples. So
Yeah. Well, this is certainly a little longer than what we've done in the past, anything that I've been able to find in the history of the commission since 2016. But I think that again, I think they're a little clearer about what exactly they want now too. So and we did want to include the full set of recommendations that came from Pamela and Jessica, just so that everyone would be very clear.
yeah, we definitely wanted those in there. Any other feedback on the report?
Is the report something that we have to approve as a commission? I mean, we haven't, I don't think we've had quorum since March, so.
Well, I think we had July. Did we have one in July? I don't know.
Isn't that when we did our retreat and we didn't have quorum?
Well, that was September.
Oh, that was September.
Yeah, I think we haven't had one since July. We had one in July, but not in.
Yeah. I don't know that we have to approve these. I think
we did
Right.
last year.
did we?
But it's up to you all. I don't know. There isn't anything that says it has to be approved.
If it needs to be in this year, I mean, I'd certainly just submit it if it doesn't require to be approved, because I don't know when we're going to be able to get quorum.
Yeah, exactly. And we can send it out. Everyone has a chance to see it and respond to Ellen with any changes. If they look at it with a deadline of saying, no response by this date means that you fully approve this report.
And maybe if you
Yeah,
send that
do it.
out, Pamela, would you mind sending out an email that just says, please respond to the report? And if it's not responded to, I mean, whatever date you all want to pick, and then making sure I'll get it out.
So today's the 18th. Is 2 weeks enough, Ellen? If we said, respond by Monday, the 2nd of December.
It's fine with me, if that works for you.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess that's those of you who are on too, if you want to read this more deeply and come back with any changes to Ellen, go ahead and do that. I know I haven't had time to look through it fully. I'm sure I'll have a few things likely. Like on the commissioners, I don't know if we can include folks's day jobs or roles or something.
I didn't put those all in, not having that feeling like that probably should be discussed and make sure everybody wanted gave permission for that.
That's okay.
But we took that off the webpage because some people had requested not to have anything to identifying about them on the webpage. So I just wanted to make sure that
Oh, good point.
It is a good point, but also to be fair, our application processes are a public record, and
True.
it's all out there anyways.
yeah.
That's true.
Well, maybe in that email you send out to everybody, if you would have them let me know what they would like included, if I could get everybody's title as they would like it stated, rather than just for me to go through Workday or to look at their email. I'd rather people tell me exactly what they want included in their title.
Couldn't we just align it with what the role that we serve? Like I'm the juvenile attorney representative, right? And we've got
Yeah, not everybody is assigned a role. Oddly enough in Workday. So in Workday, there are some people who are assigned a role, but over the years, not everybody's assigned a seat. So you are assigned a particular seat, but some people may say, this is representing this group, but a lot of people don't say anything. It just says according to the seat that you're in. Now, I think, with that's probably going to change because the executive appointments is, I think, probably a lot. They're a lot clearer now. But those ones prior, a lot from before doesn't have position anyway, or what the representation is. And some people are in kind of more than one area too.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I bring this up. Just as a community person, if I were on the website and I wanted to know who's even representing the community on this board, and I go and look here, I don't know who anyone represents. I don't know what their backgrounds are or field is. So I just want to make sure the community knows that we've got good representation, if that makes sense. So maybe I can ask in here if people would say what they'd like to be identified as, and also whether, if they're an alumni and want to identify as that as well. Because for me, this is also like a public facing document that community members are going to read, and I want them to know who's on this board making those decisions.
And since the majority of this board is lived experience, I think, but that's really up to each individual, whether you want to put that down, so I think it's really great that if you just tell me what you would like in your title by your name, I think that's an awesome idea.
Okay, I'll put that in the message. I'm just starting the email now, otherwise I'll forget and I won't get it out. So I have it open in my box. It will get sent today. So we want people to read the report and confirm how they'd like to be listed.
Yes.
And then I'll give an example of what I'm going to do for mine and see if that's helpful. Okay. Well, thanks for letting us cover all this kind of housekeeping business.
Yeah.
Since we're so ahead on the agenda.
This is a very unusual day because we never are ahead.
I know.
I don't think we ever once have been ahead in over a year now.
Yeah, no, it does not happen very often.
Yeah. Let me check to see.
Ellen, Lacey is planning on attending still, and I sent her the link you sent me this morning. So
yeah, and I sent it out to her too. I just sent it again just to make sure. I don't know what happened with that link. It's the same link. But who knows? I don't know. I resent that email out to everybody.
Yeah, I got it. Well, since we have a few minutes before Lacey potentially hops on, do we want to update at least Alex and Casey with the members we've been chatting with?
Sure, we could do that. You want to go ahead and talk about the ones you've talked to so far, and then we have a couple, I'll update on the ones you haven't spoken with yet.
Sorry, there's a message from Ilana in the chat. As a member of the public who has just begun learning about the board, the concept of having roles listed by people's names is one that would welcome. Thanks for that feedback. That's exactly what I was wondering. The other thing is there's a duplicate page about the commission that doesn't have up-to-date info. Let me click on that. We did during the administration change, like all of our stuff got deleted and then they had to bring it back and there was a lot of technology issues. So I wonder if that
Oh,
be.
what she's talking about is the one from the governor's office. We don't control that one. That is the one we've
Oh.
asked to have taken down, but we can't take it down ourselves. We don't have any control. Our page is with ODHS, and we have no control about the other one.
I wonder who would we talk to about that, Ellen? Is that
Probably, I
AJ?
think we've mentioned, I think we've mentioned it when Rachel was on before, but maybe this is
Courtney Limbaugh's email address is the one that's listed on that page.
what's
What
that?
was
Courtney Limbaugh. I don't if I'm saying that right.
Oh, she was in the old administration. Yeah.
oh, so
This
that's
is
all.
from this is from the Brown administration, so I don't know who, I think this is good. Let me put a note about this.
Maybe just a message to KJ. Is that her name, right? KJ?
Yeah, I could ask KJ, but also I think executive appointments. I don't know, maybe they would know.
Yeah, so for those, Alex, really for you, since you're new, in the last administration, we were formed as a governor's advisory commission. The commission was not set up through the normal channels. We were not established in the same structure with the same rules and infrastructure. And so as we transitioned to Governor Kotek, and we didn't know any of this until Kotek's administration came in and was like, who the heck are you? What's happening here? So there are some thingies like this that we have been working out in the last probably year as we kind of build the actual infrastructure that a commission needs. And it was because it was like they were staffing it, which isn't normal. They had the budget for it, which wasn't normal. There was all these things. And so you'll see some of these little glitches that we're still working out as we try
And I
and
tend to
establish.
I forget about that old page, but if you do go searching around, that's what you find. But there's no way any of that information comes to any of us. So we're just kind of like, out in left
Please
field.
take this page down. Like when all the stuff disappeared, we were like, where's our pages? They're like, we don't know who you are. What are you talking about? Like, what? Anyway, some background for you if you're like,
We've
this
had some
seems like
great-
it
we've
could be
solved
figured out
some-
by now.
We've
Yes,
solved a
working
lot of
on it.
mysteries in the last year.
Yeah, there have been so many. But yeah, so as far as new members coming on,
Potential
okay,
members.
candidates. I gotta find the emails now. One is a gentleman, first name is Rory. I have notes in my notebook here. And he is a pastor from the Prineville area, former rancher. He and his wife became foster parents. They've been foster parents for a number of years now. And they've had just some pretty amazing experience of having a little girl, like a year old, live with them. Was with them for like a year, and the state wanted to return home, but they didn't feel like the things were in place that were supposed to be. So they applied for intervenor status, which is a new thing that foster parents can do if the kid's been in your care for a certain amount of time in order to get some sort of standing in the case and make recommendations to the judge, I believe. I don't know if anyone has any better description of that, but so they just have this background of being foster parents and then kind of using this new law around intervenor status and helping in this case, and with a really good outcome, like the child is home now, but they maintained a relationship. They have a good relationship with bio mom, visit them and do all these things. So I think they too, like you, Alex, he and his partner, he would be the commissioner, but I think he would be talking about these things with his partner and sharing because they both have really great backgrounds in this, but also comes with a whole host of things that were challenges as foster parents and as in this intervener status role. So I thought he was just a really, really good fit. We have wanted more resource parents. Actually, I think we don't have any at this point because Nick was the last one. So we do need that role filled. And I just have a preference for having multiple. If you've got people with like young people, I want 2. If you've got bio parents, I'd love 2. And this includes resource families as well, because expecting lived experience to represent the entire spectrum is just really hard. And it's good to have that support. So yeah, I thought he fits all those things. I don't know, Ellen, if you have anything else.
We have Matt. You spoke with Matt as well.
Oh, just saying anything about Rory that I missed.
No. No, just that he's very passionate. And we also have talked about demographic differences throughout the state. We have most of our people are located in the Portland metro area, Salem area. So having people represented from the Eastern Oregon is going to be good, or Eastern or Southern Oregon. We're trying to make sure we have more representation in that area.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see, that's one. The other one was, his name is Matt. He and his wife are kind of, they're not retired, right? They're still teaching?
They're actually, they are former math teachers because
There we go.
they wrote a math curriculum that got picked up. And so they don't have to teach anymore. And
yeah, so former teachers.
But they have adopted 4 kids out of the foster care system. They're current resource parents. They're really big in support groups all around the state, and super passionate about the work as well.
Yeah, specifically around teens. He was saying that, you know, he grew up, had no idea about kids in foster care, did not ever come across his radar until he became a teacher. And then he started seeing, and he was teaching older kids, teenagers. So he started seeing all these teens just really falling through the cracks, especially around their educational outcomes. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect time for you to come on. I'm thinking of that committee with Catherine would be such a good fit for him. And then 2, it's his partner, I think, would be like peripherally involved, who also has a passion for kids. So they started fostering teens and then have switched to younger kids now, but that's where it all began. So yeah, I think they're both great. I think this person was also, I didn't write the location down, but I think he was also out of the valley.
Yeah, he is. I think he's in Eastern Oregon as well.
Yeah, so a couple of Eastern candidates.
And then the ones you haven't interviewed yet, who are, we have a couple more. We have the Crowells, and we had the female partner, she's the one who applied, but her husband is actually in law enforcement, and we do have a law enforcement slot, and he has gone ahead and applied. He also have been involved with as resource parents, as and I believe there's some lived experience there as well. And then we have another woman who is applying, Corey Algie, who was wanting to be here today. She is also a current OHA employee, former ODHS employee, but she's very, she has her own organization working on behalf of foster kids of color, and really concerned about racial disparities in the system. So I think she'll be an excellent candidate. And then we have Jesse Powell, who has applied, who was spoke at our last meeting. And so very excited about that. So we have them. And then I believe there might be one other person. One or two other people we're waiting on. So
we did follow up with Suellen. Anyway, we had a candidate from last round who didn't make it through, reached back out to him, but because he had background in law enforcement. We're like, yes, let's
Wow.
fill this spot. But he now is a caseworker actually at ODHS, so you cannot be on this commission working in child welfare as a voting member. So unfortunately, we had to tell him that we'll keep his name, if he changes positions to let us know. But for now, he
We
wasn't able.
also have a person interested who, I have several people. When I went to the Shoulder to Shoulder conference, I did a lot of outreach and I probably talked to 5 or 6 people. We have one person who I think will definitely be applying. I don't know if she'll make it in by the next, her name's Sage Dupre, and she's already, she's lived experience. She was on the former foster youth panel, and she hopefully will apply as well. Anyway, so she hasn't been on Workday yet, but we, needless to say, that's several people we can fill our commission essentially, and I think early next year we'll have a good slate. And then if we get the person Casey is talking about for a juvenile attorney, will be great, and hopefully be able to keep Judge Jaco, or she will have a recommendation for us in terms of who could come on as the judge. And we still
Yeah,
trying to keep one seat open, in case any of these don't work out or whatever, but one seat open so that we can make sure that we have tribal representation, which is critically important.
Yeah. Alex, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'm wondering, well, I don't know, first off, if anyone is a former foster child in the state of Oregon on the board. But if not, have we been doing outreach to get someone there or more bio parents? Because it feels like this is kind of resource parent heavy, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So we do have two bio parents on the commission right now.
Okay, great.
Alicia and then Jamie, who's not here today. Jamie is stepping down coming the new year because of her new position. She just cannot carve out time like this to do the commission. So, but in her place, we have Jesse, who's actually a father who has experience and is now working, I think with Alicia, right? Is he?
At
Yeah.
Morrison Parent Mentor
Yeah,
Program.
we're just
He's in
really
Salem.
love Morrison.
Parent mentors were like the greatest thing to exist as a caseworker. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he'll definitely be filling that, hopefully he'll be able to step into Jamie's position and we won't have a gap. But we still have Alicia, so at least one parent voice, and then alumni. I think over half of us are also former foster youth. None of us are young anymore. I have done outreach to Oregon Foster Youth Connection to see if they have any youth who, are interested in this kind of 30,000-foot look at the system, and so far haven't had any bites. I think Sage
Pages.
is, yeah. And then, Dean, I think he's on the younger end of an alumni as well. But
Malikas, really pretty much, probably almost, I would say pretty much almost 100% at this point are farm foster.
Wearing a million hats. But yeah, as far as like a younger alumni working that, but it's hard. We want to be able to provide, funding and support if they need help with, especially coming to an in-person with travel. And so I think we're getting to a place where we're set with infrastructure to be able to do those things. But if you know of any youth who could do that, let us know.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't want, wasn't sure coming into it. I don't know everyone's background, so just wanted to ask. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I would say we're getting some geographic diversity with some of these new candidates, but it's primarily white, middle class kind of backgrounds. So I think we do need to make sure and keep an eye on our demographics of the commission, make sure we're representing our folks.
Dean identifies Latino, and Malik, I believe, is either Latino or Pacific Islander. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, definitely things to keep
We are
in
trying
mind.
to make sure we really try to meet the statute of being representative.
Is Mamadou still on our board? I know that he's been okay, he's okay.
Mamadou is officially rolled off, so is Seema. She officially resigned.
Did I take her off then? I'm sorry, I didn't know she resigned.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe we didn't have a meeting since
She
then.
only
It's a little
attended one
crazy.
meeting. She just, whatever her barriers were.
You can remove Seema from the notes, so she's
Okay.
also resigned from the commission. So
Okay.
yeah, so just as we put new people on, other people roll off. It's
Hopefully we get stable for the next full term.
yeah, I really, really hope so.
But Jessica is still on, right? To take over
Yes,
chair, right? Pamela? Okay.
Jessica is, but today was her first day back to work
Baby.
after having a baby.
Makes sense. She's gonna be busy.
Into a new role. So while she was away, she got a new job to promoted to a new role. So she's coming back from leave and into a brand new position. So she was like, I cannot come. Totally understandable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and she has her own experience as well. So yeah, Alex, we've
She's a
got
resource parent.
Mhm.
I don't know. Was she a foster youth? I can't remember.
She was a parent, or she's a parent in recovery, right? But not
She's a foster parent in recovery.
Yeah.
Or resource parent, excuse me.
that's right. And an alumni, I think, as well. Yeah.
I
So
believe she is alumni as well.
What happens if you missed, because I know you sent me that reminder, Ellen, and then I was so busy and then I was sick on Friday. What happens if you missed the reappointment?
You just could go to the next appointment.
Oh, okay.
So are you going to be getting yours in through Workday?
I don't know. I still haven't even logged into that thing. That
Okay, well,
animal.
let me know if you have any trouble so we can
I will.
walk through.
I have the email of all the instructions and everything, so I'll
Good.
figure it out.
Yeah.
and just so you know, if you missed the December 31st deadline for the training, you still have they don't automatically, they'll bug you. But what happens is that you just have to take the training 2 times in the same year. I had to do that once. So sit through hours of the same training back to back, like identical from the year before. So just a heads up if you
I
haven't
haven't.
taken it.
I've
Try
never
and
been
take
able
it
to-
now.
I can't get into Workday. It's like a huge issue for me. I don't know why it is, but I have all the instructions too. I just have to sit down and spend some time
Yeah.
outside
And
of our busy work schedule.
Yeah, and like I
Yeah,
was
Workday's a
mentioning,
nightmare.
Casey, we do have a really good contact at DAS that if you have a serious issue, we'll reach out to her.
Yeah.
If those new instructions I sent you and those new, I mean, we've gotten everybody updated because I was alerted when there wasn't information on certain people, why we had to get certain things from. And if you're reapplying, there's that link to reapply from, just fill it out. And if there's any problems getting in, just let me know. But there's several people trying to work to make this as seamless as possible on other ends. So keep pressing through.
Alrighty.
Is
I think
now a
that's
good
all for
time?
kind of. Oh, go ahead, Casey.
I was gonna say, is now a good time to bring up ideas for meeting changes?
Yeah, Alicia, you're back on. We were saving the day schedule change till you got back.
So I just wanted to throw it out there. I don't know if we're required to do it the way we're doing, but for me personally, and I don't know if this fits everybody, it would be easier for me to have like an hour and a half meeting, like 11:30 to 1 every month, rather than trying to take out 3 hours of my workday. Because we're already going over our lunch a little bit. So I'm already committing 1 lunch period to this every other week. It would honestly be so much easier for me to just do like an 11:30 to 1, still getting our 3 hours every 2 months. But then I'm not having to try to get coverage and schedule everything in the morning, which is kind of hectic for me without any other attorneys working in my office. That's just my personal view. I don't know if that works for other people, and I don't even know if we can do that by our policies, but that would be one change that would really help me.
That's a good point. I don't know what the reason was for the way our meetings were established. I have no idea. So we're allowed, Ellen, right, to make a change like that,
I
or
don't think the statute dictates that at all. We can look really quick. The bylaws may have something like that in it, but that is,
I think they do.
but the bylaws are driven by you all. That could be changed, or we could do an amendment or something in
I'll
this.
check the bylaws real quick.
And I'll look at the statute real quick. But
Yeah, I mean, what's other folks think? So when the commission first started, I know they were doing it in person. They were doing it down in Salem in the Capitol building. The legislators who originally passed the legislation were on the commission. It was very political and controversial and whatever, and the room was like packed. So I think that's probably why they did it like that. They wanted these long, intense sessions, all in one go, because it had really high attendance and the room was always full. And so I wonder if it just had to do with the way they were working with the legislature, and we have some flexibility.
Stacy or Donna, do you all have any history on that? Why that might be the case?
I don't. It was much before my time working in this capacity. Yeah. I mean, I think Pamela's guess makes a lot of sense. It definitely was a different vibe at that time.
Yeah, because I attended as a staff person, just listening in, and that's what it was. I've got the bylaws open really quick. Let's see. I don't think they say. Oh, we shall meet at least once every 3 months at a time and place determined by the chairperson of the commission. We may meet more frequently than required, either at the call of the chairperson or majority of the members of the commission. That's all. We can have special meetings called by the chair or executive committee, or all the members can request special meetings. Yeah, so it sounds like we can do that. I'm open to the idea of monthly. It does feel like we never quite get our feet under us, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Every other month. So I think smaller bites might create more momentum if we met monthly for shorter period.
Yeah, and if we didn't have a lot, then we could have a short meeting, or not have a meeting at all. We could cancel it if like we need to wait another month to meet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And
I'm pretty open.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, wouldn't want to make like scheduling hard on child welfare or Rachel or folks who come and present. So maybe it's
Every other month they come.
yeah, maybe every other month we get more
Keep them on the same
presentations.
schedule. Yeah.
And then the opposite meeting would be more discussion, planning, implementation. And then
Also,
so
Mondays do suck.
I agree, please, let's get off of a Monday.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a Monday, later in the day would be better, but we could do a different day too.
I don't see anything from a really quick cursory look at the statute that would prohibit that. And if it's not in the bylaws, then it sounds like. And I speaking to every month, I think that it also helps to keep it kind of keeps the focus. It's easy to lose track every other month.
It is.
Especially when people have so many commitments. And like you said, Casey, 3 hours, 3.5 hours is a long time. I mean, we shortened it from the 4 something it was prior.
It was longer.
But I think it's hard, it's hard on people and their positions. So that makes sense.
It would be much easier for me to stay on the commission if it was an hour and a half, because like I said, in my new role, I'm a sole attorney. So it's not like in my old one where I could be like, all right, you guys, I'm gone this day and I have coverage. Now I'm inheriting cases and they want me to file motions to change, and it's a much bigger problem for me now.
Yeah.
But if it was like 11:30, I'm done by court at 11:30. You know, rarely am I there 11:30 to noon. So that helps me a lot. Again, I don't know how it affects other people. I just wanted to throw it out.
Yeah, and would you think if it's an 11:30 meeting, would you want it to be like 11:30 to 1, 11:30 to 1:30?
Yeah, 11:30 to 1, I think. Well, I was just saying that because I looked at our agenda today and it's 3 hours and 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
I was like, if we did an hour and a half every other or every month, we're still kind of getting the same.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably could keep it, I mean, I don't know what people think, but what if we kept it the same day and just changed the time? Or Mondays just, I mean, I don't really like Mondays, but I'm trying not to make it too complicated for the governor's office to attend and ODHS, because right now we kind of have them locked in, and you know how hard it was to get, it took a while to get the governor's office coming to this meeting for one. I mean, I know that she was in a new role and was figuring things out, but I would hate to lose that. I think they'll probably prioritize it, but that's just a thought I had. Mondays do suck though. They're really busy because a lot of things happen, you know, in my line of work anyway. A lot of things can happen. And then Monday is like when you have to kind of take care of it.
Yeah, you get all those voicemails
The
Monday.
nice thing about 11:30 is that at least it's not first thing Monday morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I mean has been a problem for a lot of people who have crisis oriented
Which
work.
is all of us, I feel like
Yeah.
we're all in that line of work.
Yeah. Well, that would be working through lunch. So we'd have to encourage folks to, have food, do bag lunch, whatever they can do
Yeah.
to, not be starving and distracted the whole time.
We kind of do that now, but you're right. We do end at like 12:15. So maybe we could do like 11 to 12:30 and still give people a little chance to grab food on their way back to the office or whatnot. But anyway,
12:30, 11 to 12:30 could, and would you, what about this? I mean, what do you think about, so 11 to 12:30, maybe stay on Monday and then on the off months, maybe it's a different day, or 11 to 12:30 on a different day? Or does that make it too confusing? Should we keep it on Monday?
I think it would be easier to have consistent attendance if we said, this meeting is always the third Monday of every month at this time. Right now, with the every other month, I think people forget to put it on their calendars. And then, like me, they panic on Friday when they see it on Monday and like, oh no.
Yeah, it's true.
Can we do 11:30 though? I know it's better for me. 11:30 is better for me.
Then 11?
Yeah.
Okay. 11:30 to what time? 1?
People can have their lunch during the meeting.
Yeah, we can call it lunch meeting, lunch hour meeting or something.
And if somebody has to have something else over lunch, we'll put them at 11:30.
Yeah.
So do we want to say 11:30 to 1 on what, right now, what Monday is this? Are we the third Monday or something?
Currently
Yeah.
we're doing the third Monday of every other month.
Except that in January, we always change it because it falls on MLK Day. So we go to the week after. It becomes the 4th Monday.
Yeah, I'm okay with sticking with the same rotation.
That's the other problem with Mondays, right? Is holidays. We usually celebrate on Mondays or observe on Mondays. So
But if we did 11:30 to 1, third Monday of the month, except January, which is the 4th Monday.
Yeah.
Then 4th Monday. Okay, and it's good to just tell people that because it seems like at least I always encounter that with people asking, well, oh, it's MLK Day, so
Yeah, exactly. Just plan for it.
yeah.
Okay. Well, this feels good and we can always test it out. And if it's a disaster, we can rethink. But I do appreciate everyone pushing this up to the top of the list because I know it has caused problems for a long time.
Is that gonna work for, I mean, Donna, I know, you're the only, Stacy's here too, ODHS person.
Yes, and I think you all need
you should do what works for commissioners and
Yes.
so that, but we'll figure it out on the ODHSN. That's my
Okay.
thought anyway.
Great. I mean, they usually come later in the agenda anyway. I feel like Lacey usually comes later. April, well, she came early last time, but it just depends.
So maybe it'll work better for some people.
Maybe.
And okay,
I put
so
it in the notes, kind of what we decided. That way folks that aren't here can, hopefully that's not the first time they're seeing this information.
and you'll get a new calendar invite out, Ellen, right away, so that we're filling that on our calendars. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted, Ellen.
Sorry, I
No,
just
I-
all of a sudden said you're muted. Yeah, I will, and the calendar invite won't have any, because we oftentimes get duplicates of things, it'll just be a save the date, which will
Yeah.
not have the link. So you'll get a separate invite that'll have the link
That's fine.
later. But anyway, yeah, I think that's great. And usually what I do is I set the links up all in advance. And unfortunately, I mean, we've never had a problem with that before, but evidently today the link that was in the Zoom link was different from the one, even though it was the same one, different from the one that went out in the email. So
Very
but,
weird.
um,
So third Mondays, 11:30 to 1. We will give that a try.
third Monday is 11:30 to 1. Right.
That would start January on the fourth Monday, but not December third Monday, correct?
Right. I don't think we'll do,
Starting January.
we won't go for December, correct? Is that what you all want?
Yeah.
Not December? Okay. I
No,
think that would be
December's
hard to
already
get
March.
anybody to come speak in December. I know that we've got Ashley Wortman going to be coming in January to talk about the Equity Council, because that's something that's a follow-up for us, and we're working on that. And then we have Malik has wanted us to talk with some folks about the intersections of trafficking, so and youth involved who are in kind of juvenile justice and have several different traumas, as well as foster care system. So
Yeah.
I think that is going to be on the January. I believe we're doing that in January as well. Depending
Awesome.
on, I guess, when Pamela and Jessica and I meet, we'll determine what's all on that agenda.
Okay. Feels like we got all the housekeeping complete. Is there anything outstanding anyone has questions about? Schedule, training, anything? Trying to find this agenda again. Where did it go?
We've got public comment left and the updates from ELT.
Right.
Yeah.
We could do our public comment because Alana has been here very patiently waiting, and we talked about her wanting to be interested in the commission, but she's not really a resident of Oregon at this point in time, but having the input and a voice will be really important. So
Yeah, do you want to go ahead? I can open up the public comment period if you, Alana, if you want to say any more about the work you're doing or recommendations you have, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, thank you so much for welcoming me. I really appreciate it. It's been really interesting to sit in and listen to the work that you guys are doing. And just to hear this many people caring and collaborating about kids in care in the state of Oregon means a lot to me as someone who has lived experience of the care system. So thank you very much. I'm not sure what you'd want to hear from me, but I'm happy to talk a little bit about what I've done overseas. As mentioned, I would love to bring the voice of both lived experience in the care system in the state of Oregon, but also some views on like what I've seen overseas and some community-based models I've seen working with young people and families who are experiencing the care system. And more importantly, I guess, is the concept of walk alongside advocacy and sort of unionization for kids in care in the state of Oregon. It's the kind of like the gold standard overseas that other countries have a national organization for youth with care experience. And I have looked into some of what's available here in the state of Oregon and done a ton of research. I could be missing something, but I have yet to see anything similar to organizations I've seen elsewhere. There are national organizations like this in New Zealand, Australia, and Scotland at base. I think there are some in other countries, but those are the three I'm the most familiar with. And I'd love to talk about that model.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about it. Would
Yeah.
you mind sharing a few thoughts now?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, in all of those countries, part of like the foster care Bill of Rights equivalent is that young people have a legal right to external walk alongside advocacy, external to the system. And what that results in is the equivalent of ODHS has to share contact information about every young person who is in the care system in those countries with an external independent nonprofit. In New Zealand, it's called Voice Whakarongo Mai. I partnered with them when I did my campaign around New Zealand. In fact, it was called Voyage for Voice. They were my main charity partner. And what that meant was that I got to see on the ground their operations over the course of about 9 months, all the way around the country of New Zealand. They have advocates that walk alongside young people in care. No matter where the young people are moved, they can't be barred from access by advocates. So that includes in residences and things like that. And their job is to amplify the voice of the young person, not speak on their behalf. And I think that personally, from lived experience and also from having seen this model, it is extraordinarily powerful. What it does is give these kids agency while they are in the system, and an outlet for some of the frustrations that I think those of us who are care experienced have while we're in the system of not being heard about the system. Their motto is nothing about us without us. And I fundamentally believe that to my core needs to be the model here in the state of Oregon as well. So these advocates come alongside and, like I said, they amplify the voice of the young person. It is different from a CASA. It's a paid advocacy position. They're almost all certified youth workers at minimum. Also, they're not speaking on behalf of the young person. If the young person's voice can be heard, they are there to help empower the young person to speak. And that can be through whatever medium is comfortable for the young person, but they're there to work with them to make sure their voice is actually heard in their own words. What this also leads to is regional youth councils, and then in those places, a national youth council. They present to Parliament and advocate for policy changes. They are single-handedly responsible for raising the age of aging out of care in the country of New Zealand from, I think it was 16 to 18, and then from 18 to 21, and now you can get extended care to the age of 24. They do this starting from a young age by building a relationship with the young people in care. They do that by having like fun events. So they might have a spooky Halloween party or a silent disco at a museum, and it gives these kids a chance to connect with one another. I also think that's another aspect that's absolutely essential. So I've been in the state of Oregon now for about a month visiting, connecting with educators, speaking in schools, connecting with folks working with those in the care system. And even though I can pass the background check, and I've presented to DHS Child Welfare Lane County in their monthly all hands meeting. So it's not like I haven't had access to folks who are working with kids in care, and yet no one has facilitated a meeting or event between me and young people in care. And I know from personal experience that it's absolutely critical to have role models who are care experienced. I never met anyone while I was in care who had aged out of care. And so I had no one to look to. When we bring young people together who are care experienced in a safe space that's independent of the child welfare system, it creates a network of connection. It's like finding your long lost siblings. And there's a shared understanding that's just nothing like, I've never seen anything like it. By bringing the young people together to have fun and interact with this organization, they have a positive association with the independent advocacy group, and the relationship lies with the independent advocacy group, not necessarily with the advocate themselves. And I think that's really important because as kids get moved around or advocates move on, it's really important that kids still have a place they can go. I think the closest thing I've seen to it in the state of Oregon is the Ombuds office. And I've spoken a bit with Alexis there, who's awesome, by the way. And I think the idea of the Ombuds office spinning out into something independent, sitting in an organization like this, is probably much more ideal than it's sitting within DHS. Like I said, it's been almost a month. I've connected with plenty of people around the care system. I still haven't been able to have any direct access to youth in care to inspire or reach them, or to help connect them to each other. That really concerns me. As someone with lived experience, again, if we're gatekeeping young people in care from stories that could help uplift and empower them, that is really concerning. Stories are how we teach kids from a very young age, and that should never stop. As teens, they need to hear stories too, especially stories of inspiration. Some examples are young people that I met with in New Zealand as I was sailing around. I met with some youth from a locked facility, and I lived in a locked mental health facility in Portland when I was in care. And when these kids came on my boat to have a tour of the boat, I just sort of casually asked, "Oh, I heard you guys live at this facility. I lived in a facility like that." And immediately these teens went from completely checked out to looking straight at me. One of them looked at my arms and said, "You used to self-harm, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And when he walked away, the other one was just transfixed. And she looked at my arms and she rolled her sleeves up and they were covered in self-harm marks. And she said, "How did you stop? I really want to stop." And we got to have a conversation about that. You can't have a conversation with a clinician in the same way. And that's why walk alongside and connection between those with lived experience is so important. Also, I think it's difficult to feel any agency or empowerment when you're in the system. I know that my last year in care, my caseworker changed. I went from having a really attentive, wonderful caseworker who I'm still very close with to a caseworker who completely neglected me. I was just a kid and I was sick of the system by that point. The last thing I was going to do was ask for another adult in the system to get involved in my case. And as a result, even though my dream was college, even though my dream was graduating from high school, no one helped me get back into a high school for my senior year. No one told me FAFSA existed. Nobody told me about the Chafee grant. And I didn't get to go to college until I was 21. And I stumbled on the Chafee grant after I'd moved to California. That can't happen. And a lot of kids don't feel like they have recourse. But if you bring kids together to connect with each other, they can help each other more than anybody else can. And I'd also say, when you have a caseworker or someone like that who's kind of neglectful, like I did my last year, I tried to reach out to my previous caseworker and she was told that she couldn't speak to me because it would undermine my new caseworker. That shifting of attachment relationships is really damaging as well to a young person in care. So this is another reason why having a relationship with an external organization that you can trust, that you can go to, that always has your back is really, really awesome. Because that sort of thing's going to happen to kids in care. It's inevitable. So I'd love to see a model like that start in the state of Oregon. I can provide some examples. There's one, like I said, in New Zealand called Voice Whakarongo Mai. There's one in Australia I've worked with called Create Foundation. And I believe they're both modeled originally on an organization called Who Cares Scotland. Another piece of this that I'm quite passionate about as well is connecting young people through recreation. In my experience, the system is really focused on survival, not thriving. And so we talk a lot about, meeting their needs for home and education and food and clothing. But actually, if kids aren't recreating, they're missing out on what I think is a fundamental human right, a right of childhood. And by having an organization like this that's providing recreational opportunities that include transport, include food, and aren't dependent on whether or not you've been moved again to another place, it's so awesome to see, and it's so important. I've worked a little bit with a charity in LA County as well called Happy Trails for Kids. They do year-round outdoor recreation opportunities for young people, including a summer camp for kids in foster care for 3 weeks every summer in August. And I'd love to see some sort of folding in of that kind of Happy Trails for Kids model, where they do have access to all kids in care in LA County, folded into something like this independent advocacy organization. So getting kids outside and recreating and together and creating that like union and collective voice for kids with care experience. So that's something I'm really big on, is like this walk alongside and the voice of the young person being amplified. I'm happy to answer any other questions. I've seen lots of other cool community organization models. And I would love to be a part of the Governor's Commission in the future as well, if my residency status changes.
Well, thank you so much. I so enjoyed speaking with you, and I'm glad you came today. And I wish we had more people to hear your story. Alexis was our connection, so that's great. And yeah, I think that any ways we can learn from others and share those things with other commissioners, and well, I'm sure everybody else has questions for you, but I do appreciate you coming today and really love speaking with you.
Thanks, Ellen. I felt similarly.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming. This is amazing. And I wondered, I have a couple of things, but one is, so we used to have something called the Oregon Foster Youth Connection here in the state, something that I founded actually in 2008, and their host organization, and it was current and former foster youth joining together and advocating for systems change. So there was policy work, they had an advocacy committee, but they also did regular meetings locally where they'd do something fun. There was sometimes like summer picnics, depending on what you wanted to do, that's what you did. But there were some changes in the organization and they decided to leave. So I don't know if you've had contact with them, but they are rebuilding. So that would be such an amazing place for you to plug in. I don't know if Alexis gave you Whitney's contact information.
No.
But if you give me your email, maybe you could put it in the chat if you'd be willing to. I could connect you to the young woman who's kind of spearheading that, and could be a great place for you to plug in and help with that youth organizing. And there's also a national group here called National Foster, or what are they called now? NFAN? No. Oh, Foster Youth in Action, FYA. They are based out of the California Youth Connection. They used to, I was on their board until they merged back into the CYC, but they are the national youth advocacy organization. And they work with all the states that have youth advocacy organizations in them. So Oregon was obviously involved from the early days there. I'm curious though, so I'll get you connected to Whitney for sure, and I'm really excited about that. Do you have any information on these organizations? Are they funded by the state? Is there federal money involved in New Zealand and these other countries? Is this all independent fundraising? That's kind of just a quick question if you have any background, and you could always send materials too if we want to follow up about that.
Yeah, totally. Right. Okay. Thank you. I did look up OFYC. I can't remember if it was Ellen or if it was Alexis who pointed me to the resource page for adoptees and foster youth. But on that page, there was information about a number of organizations, including OFYC. I called and spoke with somebody from the organization that OFYC technically sits in now. Really cool to meet you as the founder, because OFYC looked so cool. And they basically, yeah, they basically said that they're not doing anything with it anymore. They're just a data organization now and not a services providing organization.
Exactly, yeah.
They didn't know of anyone else who was doing anything further. There were a couple of other resources I contacted on that page that were either unresponsive or actually not even available in the state of Oregon. So that was really concerning to me, because if you're a young person in the state of Oregon, and like research is kind of my forte, I'm not good at a lot of other things, but I'm good at research. And like, I really went down some rabbit holes in the state of Oregon to understand what exists here and what doesn't. And a lot of links are outdated or broken in a number of places, including on that page. There's an organization on there that's really cool that pairs mentors with former foster youth, and it's not age capped. So it's pretty cool because it provides them with support ongoing into their further into adulthood. Awesome, because the legacy of foster care lasts a lifetime, let me tell you. And anyway, I rang them. They're awesome. They're like, we only operate in Colorado. I don't know why you're calling us. So like they, for example,
we used to have one here. It was called Powerhouse Mentors. They also dissolved.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I didn't hear
10 years ago, probably.
Okay. Well, this one was specifically linked to on the Oregon page of resources for adoptees and foster youth. And yeah, they only operate in Colorado. I also have spoken with Foster Club. And I have spoken with the Alumni Association for Foster Youth of America. They don't even have an Oregon chapter, actually.
No.
So, but they're listed on that page as well. So, and there were a couple of other groups. I've also been speaking a lot with Jeff Todal from U of O's Center for Prevention of Abuse and Neglect, and working a bit with Elaine Walters from the Trauma Healing Project in Eugene, as well as with Mandy Davis from Trauma Informed Oregon.
Okay, so you've got all the people.
Yeah. So
you've only been here a month.
Less than 3 weeks.
That's insane.
Great. I was going to mention Mandy Davis because I've written I've written a couple pieces for Trauma Informed Oregon.
They're
But
awesome.
yeah, I loved working with them. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about doing some follow-up things in the coming year, maybe like a virtual event or something. But yeah, I can see that there's pieces of these things. It looks like some stuff folded around COVID time. But I think the really key difference is that unlike like an opt-in independent group, the existence of organizations like Voice Whakarankau, Create Foundation, and Who Cares Scotland, it is mandated by law that these exist. And I think that's really critical. And that needs to happen in the state of Oregon, in my opinion, because then DHS is forced to share data to contact and outreach these young people. As for how they're funded, my understanding is that they're all independent nonprofits. However, because they are mandated into law by government, they're one of those rare examples of a nonprofit that is funded by government. So they are written into the budget. They also do get independent money from other grants or organizations or corporate sponsors as well. But they operate as an independent charity with the bulk of their funding coming from government budget.
Thank you. That's so helpful because that's a piece. And having done the youth organizing for like a decade, that was the number one barrier we had was we could not access youth. We could not get contact information. We had to pound the pavement, show up at every event, every youth thing, every independent living program event, every, spam, social media, and just hope youth found us. It's not the easiest or best way to do that.
Yeah, like I've spoken at an alternative high school in Cottage Grove, and I've spoken at a middle school in Cottage Grove. And I know that the young people who attended my talk at the middle school were like hand selected by the guidance counselor. I know there were kids in my audiences that were in care or care experienced. And but of course I wasn't told who they were. And they didn't self-identify. So, yeah, and when I met with and presented to Lane County DHS in their monthly all hands meeting, I said, look, I'm actually here to connect with youth in care. Here's why it's important for them to hear a story like mine. Please, even if you're just a caseworker and you want to have coffee with me, like I would just welcome a conversation. And literally no one from all of Child Welfare Eugene has reached out to me. It's been almost 2 weeks since I presented. So the amount of gatekeeping that's happening around kids in care is just really concerning to me. I did reach the ILP program in Eugene, and I'll be attending one of their events this week. But it's just like a cooking class, and I'll say a few words and hopefully connect with some kids. We are having an event this Friday for care experienced young people. And I'll speak a little bit, but I'd like to actually use my platform and my accomplishments to hand the mic over to young people and have them speak if they're comfortable with that. That event's hosted by the Trauma Healing Project, and it's this Friday in Eugene from 3:30 to 5. So hoping to get the word out about that as well. But yeah, there's just a lot of like pavement pounding, and that's where that legal mechanism of like this independent advocacy has to exist. It's like the Ombuds Office, but if the Ombuds Office was a whole organization.
Mm-hmm. God, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna have to move to put my computer on on charge.
Oh, you're good.
Decides to die at the end of the meeting.
Well, thank you, Alana. Any other questions? I know we got to jump to Lacey. Thanks, Lacey, for joining us. We appreciate you jumping in.
I was just going to add that I've also had a chance to sit down with Ilana a couple of times here in Cottage Grove. So bravo, she is a real go-getter in connecting with people and meeting people, and it's amazing what she's accomplished in just a few short weeks here. I would just encourage everybody in Alana, if she's willing, if you get a chance to meet with her offline and kind of hear her story, real powerful. And one thing that she brought up, I'm not going to go into detail because it's her story, but in hearing the experiences that she had in transitioning through high school and then coming back to her hometown and trying to get credits, but being told that, because of the transition, her credits wouldn't transfer, is something that also stood out to me with the educational struggles that she's had. And she's actually, if I remember correctly, has went back and met with former teachers or principals and kind of addressed that issue and maybe had gotten some guidance on how things have changed since she's been here, for the better, it sounded like maybe. But just wanted to encourage you all, if you get a chance to connect with her offline, definitely worth it.
Thanks, Casey. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have gone back and talked to the high school bit. They do have more credit recovery available, and there is now like an alternative school that works a bit harder to integrate young people who have experienced like a lot of transition changes. But I don't feel confident that the mainstream high school in my hometown is actually reintegrating young people who are experiencing a lot of educational transitions in high school well. Still. So, and I also just in my time in Cottage Grove and South Lane, observing, speaking to guidance counselors, listening to educators and what their challenges are. There are really, as probably most of you guys know, like it looks like there are really unique challenges to rural Oregon. And while I find that there are a lot of these resources available in city centers like Eugene or Portland, I'm still not seeing great resources for young people who are experiencing care in rural Oregon. And that's pretty concerning to me as well. Yeah, and I don't know what nomenclature is used here as well, but I would love to see the term care experienced adopted here. That's also the kind of gold standard term overseas because it's so much more comprehensive and inclusive of anyone who has, you know, maybe they're not in care anymore and they've gone back to their family of origin or they've been adopted, but the care system has impacted their life forever and they are care experienced and should be a part of the collective voice to change care. A lot of young people in care are not in foster care. I was in group homes, mental health residences, locked facilities. Like foster care is a misnomer. I think I had 2 foster families totaling about 6 weeks in my 3 years in care. So yeah, I'd love to see that, like that term adopted as well to be more inclusive. And that might help with some of that outreach to young people who can't identify with the term foster care.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thanks so much for being so like warm and supportive. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know we really appreciate you coming and don't know what your plans are for the future, but we always have public comment period. I know you're interested in the commission if you get residency at some point, but barring that, coming to join us and share your thoughts is always, there's always opening for you to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, Lacey.
Good afternoon. So morning. It's still morning. It's been a long morning. Good morning, you all. I think I know everyone except for Alana. Alana, I'm Lacey Andreessen. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of the deputy directors for child welfare. And I wish I could have heard the rest of your presentation, but I'd love to schedule a little time with you. I think that caseworkers are taught to be very protective of their kids and their confidentiality. And so I don't think it's out of malice that you're not getting outreach, right? Like we have like contracted providers and people that we make referrals to and ROIs. And so I think that there's ways for you and I to talk about how you connect with workers and how we can get referrals to you, and also some clarity on what you want to provide. So I'm going to put my email in the chat. Actually, I'll put my exec assistant's email in the chat. You can email her to get on my calendar, and I'd love to just talk with you a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I understand that instinct to protect. Totally get that. But like I can pass background checks or whatever, and there are ways to facilitate this that doesn't 100%. Violate a young person's privacy.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm saying is I think we can think about how to inform the system. So you're not trying to solely educate, caseworkers and supervisors. So that's definitely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got one agenda item for a request from you all, and I have a couple other things to update you on. We are working now on implementing the collaborative agreement that came as a result of settling the class action lawsuit that was known as Wyatt versus Kotek. And part of that has been a bit of a shift in my role. So historically, in the last 4.5, almost 5 years, I've been overseeing all of program and practice. And we brought on another deputy. We're walking through and kind of thinking through some changes in our team structure. And my role is quality outcomes and system partnerships now. So what that means is the folks that work with me are serving the children who are farthest from good outcomes. I have Sarah Fox, who's the treatment services manager. That's all things levels of care outside of family foster care. I have Lori McClure, who oversees resource management. Those are kids either in temporary lodging or young people we're preventing temporary lodging for. And then Heidi Beaubriand is our nurse manager who does all things kind of child well-being. And also a project manager and a data person. And then I'm still deeply connected to the rest of the program team, like Stacy, because we'll talk about the areas of practice that the collaborative agreement covers. And you'll hear things like maltreatment in care, is child safety, is foster care, is reunification, all the different program areas are going to be engaged in that work. So we'll have a dotted line and they'll be consistent. But the reason why we're creating a team and the reason why I'm not just taking those areas of practice is April and I have spent a good deal of time with other state leaders who are under some kind of a federal consent decree or settlement agreement or collaborative agreement, and really been trying to be thoughtful about how we set up our structure to do really well in improving the outcomes that we agree to in that agreement. I also am the connection to our neutral. His name is Kevin Ryan and team. So I'm the one who meets with him. I'm the one who provides data to him. I'm the one who answers his questions. And he and I will present together in some focus groups, which we'll talk about. And so far, we've only met with him a couple of times. He and his team have about 50 hours a month that they can dedicate to Oregon based on the amount that he's being paid. And right now they're deep in the work of just reading through myriad amount of information that we've given them, from the things that are required in the settlement agreement, but also additional information that I've offered to him that I really want him to know and understand. Internally, we're doing some root cause analysis, just data groups right now to look at what is our performance around these areas of practice right now. And what then we'll be engaging with teams to say, what do we need to do to improve these areas of practice? So the 5 areas that are covered by the collaborative agreement are maltreatment in care, like I mentioned, reentry. So kids who leave foster care, their episode ends and then they come back into care. Timely case plans, super important and an issue that's close to my heart. Timely assessments, mental health, medical, and dental. So as children enter foster care, are we getting all of their assessments done in a timely way? And then the quality of their placement and services. And there's an additional area that's listed in the agreement that is how we notify parties when there's an allegation of abuse in care, and then how we provide parties with the documents of what happened during that investigation. And parties are parents' attorneys, CASA, if they're involved, child's attorney, tribe, if they're enrolled, and the judge. So there's requirements in our statutes right now that when we have an allegation of abuse, when a child's already in foster care, that we're notifying people in a certain amount of time, and then that they receive all of the documents as the result of that investigation. And there was some question during the time that we were negotiating into the collaborative agreement if we're doing that accurately or not. And so we agreed to assess our own process and report to the neutral if there are issues with the way that we're doing it, what we're doing to improve it. He will have his initial assessment sent to the federal court. The original date proposed was April, but he was allowed up to 60 days extension. He's already told me he intends to take that 60 days. So we anticipate that will be in June. And then annually, he'll report to the court on whether or not we're making progress. A couple of things that are pretty unique to Oregon's agreement. One is, when we got into this litigation and we looked at what other states were doing who had federal court orders overseeing child welfare, we tried to learn from what's working and not working in other states. And what we heard is that there are states who have agreed to consent decrees or settlement agreements that have 50 or 100 or 150 unique measures that child welfare has to get to and hold in order to be able to exit. And in the meantime, the child welfare agency is paying for all of the cost of attorneys and paying those neutrals. So there are states that have acquired hundreds of millions of dollars of debt because they're trying to come into compliance with a court order. And they also have told us that they feel very stuck because they're wedded to those measures that were set 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. And we all know that just from the beginning of my career till now, so much has changed in what we know and understand about what's best for children and families. So we, you may have seen in the news that there's some criticism of how much the state paid to defend this lawsuit. What I would tell you is that the fee that we're paying this neutral person is reasonable and low, a quarter of what he gets in any other state. And having not ended up in one of these consent decrees that could last 30 years, I would argue we've probably saved the state hundreds of millions of dollars by doing a good defense, by getting our house in order and making some really good improvements in the last 5 years in order for the plaintiffs to also agree that this very reasonable settlement agreement with 5 areas of practice, 15 measures max, and a 10-year timeline that we can come out from underneath if we get to the outcomes that we've committed to is probably one of the best investments that we made. So that's not a very sexy headline for the newspaper to run, and you'll never see an media outlet say that, but that's Lacey's perspective on the whole thing. Let me pause and see if you have any questions about that before I go to the other couple things I want to talk about. I think what I'm excited about is twofold. One, these are areas that I'm deeply committed to improving for children and families, and it has nothing to do with a lawsuit. 2, we're also going to be moving into a federal process, what we do, what's called a program improvement plan. And we're aligning all of the work and interventions between the 2 things. Because what I have also learned is that a caseworker and a supervisor are not motivated by a federal settlement agreement. Utilizing a federal settlement agreement to try to make people make good decisions doesn't work. So we don't have to talk about the collaborative agreement with the workforce anymore. We don't have to talk about the program improvement plan. We're going to talk about what our commitments are to really doing what's best for children and families, and not have it feel like our central office team is coming out and telling people a whole bunch of things that they have to do. So I think all in all, it really is aligned with the vision for transformation, the mission of our agency, and ultimately is really going to result in better outcomes for children experiencing foster care in the state. Next update is the budget. And this goes along with thinking about how to ask for investment for youth engagement and working with kids with care experience. I really like that vernacular a lot. We anticipate seeing the governor's budget in early December. We went through a lengthy, different process this time to build that budget because Governor Kotek sat on the Senate for a long time and was able to observe from her perspective what was and wasn't working with the way we were building the budget. So rather than what we've done historically is create our own budget on our own, send it to the Department of Administrative Services. They then deny the whole thing, and we have to go back and justify why we need what we want. And then they send that on to the governor's office, and then the governor makes decisions. And from the time it leaves us, we have no idea what's going to be in the governor's proposed budget. This time, she decided to take DAS out of the equation, and we've worked directly with her office. So I suspect that I know pretty clearly what's coming from the governor's budget. I can't talk about it until y'all see it like I do, because we work at the will of the governor. But I think that in a time when we're facing a much different federal forecast and a much different state forecast in terms of money, that we will be sitting well for not experiencing some of the cuts that other state agencies are going to have to experience. The work that we do is too important, and we have too much to improve. And I think the governor and her team really know that. So I think we will be as well as a state agency is going to be. Let me just caveat that by saying, I don't know what's going to happen at the federal level with the change in the presidential administration and how that's going to impact federal funding and financing for child welfare. We're all just going to hang on and go on this wild ride. So by the next time we're all together, we'll be able to talk exactly about what's in the governor's proposed budget. And by June, our legislature, as long as they all stay in their seats, we will have a legislative approved budget and really know what the next biennium is going to look like. Just as an aside, if you are an advocate or someone who works alongside the child welfare system like you all do, and you're interested in advocating for something like what Alana proposed, that there's a statute that requires the agency have a nonprofit or a function and somehow of we're engaging children and families, how you would get that funded is to partner with a legislator to write that bill and go and testify for why it's important. We would then price it. This is what it's going to cost for us to do that. And then the legislature would vote it in or out. So that's, and that's true for any place that you want to see investment in child welfare. I don't say this often because I'm not a fan of everything about practice needing to be in a statute, but I think I probably speak for Stacy and Donna too. Having a statutory requirement that we are engaging young people and funding it appropriately would be incredible. It would be incredible because we have this struggle around where's the money going to come from, and do we have the right to give out their information, and who the contractor provider to be, all of those things. So I think it would be something that we would be in support of. Lastly, and I think I stand between you and lunch, so I will make this brief. The director for ODHS has brought in an outside entity that's done an assessment of our agency's structure. and has made some recommendations to the ODHS director about some changes to what the structure of the agency will look like. We all, the managers, everybody just got to see those recommendations in the last 10 days, and we'll be moving in January into planning to implement them. Some of the things we're going to be contemplating are potentially combining the child welfare and the self-sufficiency programs to be a child and family services agency rather than having them separated. We're also considering, and this is kind of boring, but like the structure of central office right now, changing it so that there's a service delivery area and there's a program area. If any of you have been around for long enough, we used to have that and we don't now, but we may go back to it in a different way. And then some other kind of partnership and work with the other areas of the agency as well. So I think for me, as long as we get the accountability part of the service delivery area right, I think that could be good. And we've already been working really hard in family preservation work to combine child welfare and self-sufficiency. So this is like right in line with the direction we want to see the agency going, where we can be pushing a lot of resource and time and money into prevention, which lives in self-sufficiency, versus intervention, which is always with us. So lots more to come. We're going to be engaging community in what that needs to look like. There likely will be a call for work groups like we normally do. So I'm sure you'll all be seeing those as well. Unless you have any questions, those were the updates I had.
I have a question really quick.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Lacey.
Nice to see you too, Lisa.
I got an invite to like a it's like a community meeting that Fair Boars is going to be at. Is that about what you were just talking about?
It is. He's been doing listening sessions going around the state. Part of what's informed this assessment that's giving these recommendations are those listening sessions. He also is just checking in on how are we doing. So there will be breakout groups. There's topic areas. People are taking notes and collecting all that information to inform the next couple of years of planning. So if you have the bandwidth and time, I would really encourage you to attend.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some of my team to go too, but yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacey. Appreciate the update.
Right.
I'm
Great to see you.
interested to hear about the restructure, and hopefully that leads to better outcomes, right? That's the goal.
Hope. That's always the hope. Yeah. Thanks, you all.
Yeah. She's hopping out. Alrighty. What are we on here? Any discussion about that update? Any questions from commissioners? Well,
I really like the 5 areas of practice. I mean, just I think that kind of sums it up.
Right? Yeah, it'll be really interesting.
Did you get that in the 5th area? I think I got as many, so we can do it on our comparative notes, but I didn't write down the 5th area. No.
I did quality of placement and services. It's in the notes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good.
I captured it pretty good, but
Yeah, that's my agenda. Oh, there it is. So looking at our agenda, it's really just, we can't approve the minutes. We already talked about the report. We already did public comment. So Alana, you said you had one thing?
Yeah, sorry. It was really, really awesome hearing her support for some sort of legislative mechanism to create that independent advocacy. I wanted to mention that I have emailed Senator Gelser-Bluin, because I heard that she's been really supportive in the past, in the hopes of meeting with her and talking to her about this.
yes.
Yeah, she'd be one of your people to definitely get in touch with.
If there's anyone else you'd recommend, I'd be happy to hear that as well. So thank you.
Wonderful. So our other item for business was just ongoing business and recommendations. So I think we've heard the update around the settlement agreement. We do have it on the, I think we came out with the retreat with a ton of recommendations around people to bring in to talk, people we needed to hear from and connect to. And I know Ellen's working on those. As far as the settlement agreement goes, getting the neutral, some sort of meeting with the neutral in the commission as he's doing his initial report. Our recommendation around the educational outcomes, it sounds like that's going to turn into a work group that spins off in the next summer 2025. So the only recommendations outside of that, I was just looking at them, were this issue around ILP, but I feel like that could also roll into the educational, and then the one around the GAO reporting. And it looks like April said, we think this is a great idea. So my understanding is it's really their decision whether those get published or not, and that it was an internal decision not to share out those recommendations the past however many years. So I guess this is I don't know, how would we follow up with that, Ellen? Just call that out specifically and ask for when we might look to see the first report. Is that a question to Alex?
I think maybe if we talk to Alexis, reaching out and see where they're at with that. Originally Darren was still on when that was made. I know she's fully supportive of it from what I understand and from our conversations. So yeah, I think it'll just be following up with the next steps as to what that is, or if there is any barrier.
So then a follow-up to Alexis around the last report. I'm just making a note.
And she had wanted to be here today, but couldn't be here today. So I do believe we'll have her, hopefully she'll be back at our next meeting and be able to give us it was just hard, I think, for a lot of people. There's a lot going on, and some of the normal people from out of I know we have our new contact from OYA wants to be able to be here and come, but I didn't hear back from her, and just various people who, like Adam and the folks that I'm working with on the committee around which is being called voluntary placement, not relinquishment anymore. That when we spoke with Becky Marshall last, I know there's some follow-up around that. There's an upcoming meeting. We'll be talking. More people are involved. Sarah Fox is involved, and several other people. So we'll be seeing what the next steps there are. But I don't think we're going to have a meeting now until January, so that may be postponed. But there's a lot of follow-ups, and as we meet with Jessica, we can make sure that we don't lose anybody, that I get everybody on your list that we want to make sure we're following up with next year.
Sorry, my kiddo started screaming in the background. I had to shut my door really quick. It's very loud. Okay, so I feel like that is the follow-up on recommendations then at this point. Are there any recommendations? I put the link in the chat too, if you scroll up. There is the document, and it has all of our recommendations, and then in red is April's feedback, who is the child welfare director.
Everybody has a copy of that. Should have went out probably over a month ago.
Yeah.
I will be sending out Catherine's, what she sends to me. I'll also send out Carissa's slides. And if there are things you want on the agenda, that please email both Pamela and myself. So when we meet to do the agenda setting, I can make sure I get all those things on there.
Yeah, so I guess based on those recommendations, are there any questions commissioners have? Any follow-up to those that has not been covered with next steps that I'm missing? All right, so we'll move forward with that. I think we can end just a few minutes early, Ellen. This is monumental. It's your holiday present, your winter present to everybody. 15 extra minutes of your day.
Yeah, so we will, just to clarify, no meeting in December, but beginning January 1, we will have monthly meetings on the third Monday of the month from 11:30 to 1, except in January, which will be the fourth Monday from 11:30 to 1.
Wonderful. And we'll wait for the calendar invite for those.
And we'll get those out because we'll get them out. I think what I'll do is for those of you here is I'll send out an email first, letting people know that's what we're doing, and then get the calendar invite so it doesn't catch anybody off guard and they're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is this?
Good.
All right.
Great.
Well, thank you all for your time and attention, and I hope you have safe and healthy holidays, and we'll see you in January. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.